Hey, what's going on? This is Becker and welcome to another episode on the channel. Now I got something really special for you today because we're going to be sitting down with my good friend. His name is Mirza, and the coolest thing about him, he's actually a really cool guy. But another cool thing about him is he's worth 500, going well past that, closing in on $600 million. And one thing that's really benefited me with my business, my career, whatever the hell I do to generate money, is actually being able to sit down and interact with people like this one-on-one. Whenever you actually see people like this, or you hear about really successful business people, you always see them on TV when they're being politically correct, or just in not a forum where they are just what they like be talking to their friends. So what I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to go hop in the car and we're going to go visit him, and we're going to talk about how he grew his business and all sorts of other stuff. It's pretty cool. You'll enjoy it. However, like always, because I have to show off, we're going to be traveling there in style. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's get this going. Gosh, the one time I try and drive my car, look cool on my channel, someone blocks me in my house with a trash can. I give up. Screw this shit. Let's just go and take that Hyundai. Okay, hey dudes, what's going on? This is Becker and welcome to another great video on this channel. We're actually going to try and do something beneficial this time and actually cover real stuff instead of me just cussing at a video per hour. So what we're doing right here is I'm sitting here with my good friend Mirza, and just a little background. I think the net worth is like 500 million or something like that, or whatever.
Change, yeah.
So he's done some cool shit. And with that being said, what I want to do is bring on the channel today, and we really just are going to shoot the shit and just do whatever, and really talk about how he started his business, kind of how he got to where it is. And the biggest thing I really want to talk about is has probably one of the coolest stories when it comes to success, failure, and reaching your goals and all sorts of stuff like that. Really, really just kind of crazy stuff. So, hey, Com. How's it going?
What's up, Alex? Nice to meet you.
How's it going? Yeah, what's happening? So what I really wanted to talk about first is just really kind of the quick story, or the quick summary of how you started the business and like the initial failures. And I mean, the story of how you actually got the investments for it it's absolutely crazy. So,
sure, yeah. I was born in Pakistan. I left when I was 2, moved to Washington, D.C. And then from there we moved to Ottawa, Canada. So I was raised and educated in Canada. Is it on, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Raised and educated in Canada, and I started my first business at 7. I grew up with a fairly large family, and my father used to work 3 jobs. He was like a small-time entrepreneur. He wasn't really successful. He was more like a mom and pop type of entrepreneur, and he used to work really hard, and I used to watch him work really hard and say, man, I never want to do that with my life. Yeah. But at the same time, I was exposed to entrepreneurship because my parents were small-time entrepreneurs. So I was in this business environment where I think it kind of did shape my outlook and what I wanted to do for life. And I started my first business at 7. It was a lemonade stand. I used to sell lemonade on the street corner from morning till night pretty much. Made a little over $300 doing it. And then I franchised it out to the neighborhood kids, and I got 10 kids to join me, so it was like a little drug dealing operation.
Yeah, it's like I was about to say, you have this gang going, the lemonade stand kicking all the other lemonade stands down.
We had a lemonade gang going, and
the kids are getting hurt at school this week because of the lemonade gang.
It was
sounds
fun.
Like something from Wizard of Oz. All right, so anyways.
Yeah, so ended up making like $900 when I had those 10 kids franchise it out pretty much, and it was my first experience as an entrepreneur. You know, to a 7-year-old kid, $900 like $1 million. You know, you can pretty much do anything you want within reason. And I was hooked. I knew, I wanted to be an entrepreneur my whole life. This is what I wanted to continue to do. And long story short, I did a bunch of other odd child entrepreneur businesses. And when I was 13, my older brother bought a pizza store, and my dad was he was kind of somewhat retiring at that time. He was pretty old, and the pizza store became like the family business. And I used to go to school. I remember I was in like grade 7 and 8, and I used to go to school at 8:30 in the morning, fall asleep in class half the time, not pay attention, read books on Bill Gates and things like that, and pass through the school time. And then at 3:30 my school would finish, and by like 4 p.m. I'd be at the pizza store, and I would work until 2 a.m. and I did that every single day for like 5 years. it taught me the value of hard work and work ethic. And the shitty part about working in a family business is it's like slave labor. You know, like you get paid very little, if anything at all.
What are you gonna do? Leave? Yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Leave? Yeah. And then you don't have a place to sleep. You know, like it was really tough. It was really hard work, but it was, I guess, the best thing for me at that time because it gave me the work ethic that I've carried forward into my career, and it's paid off handsomely by having that work ethic.
I had a really similar experience when I was in the Air Force. I talk about that a lot of times, but basically it was very similar to slave labor where I worked at, not because it was the military so much, but because there were civilians above me and they basically could get a raise, and so the better we worked, the more raises they got, but we couldn't quit or leave their military, so they're just like, it was insane. So I'll leave it at that.
A good slave labor, slave master situation.
It really taught me and gave me that motivation that when I got out, I was originally started as kind of like a just kid who didn't give a shit about anything.
Yeah.
And then I left the Air Force like, I gotta find some way to make money. This has to work. And so anyways.
Yeah, so I did the pizza store stuff, and the thing with the pizza store is around like 9:30 p.m. the dinner rush would die down, and when it would die down, I would get this uninterrupted block of time to pretty much do whatever. And those were like back in the ICQ days and like shit like that. And I used to read crazy amounts of books. I would go through a lot, and during that 5-year period, I went through thousands of books, and I read everything I could. On business, on entrepreneurship, on marketing, on sales, on mindset. I used to read autobiographies of a lot of these great American industrial titan entrepreneurs, and I would study them, and I would study people on the Forbes list, and I always knew school wasn't going to teach me like the business because a big part of a big thing that's lacking in the developed world is that they don't teach you financial literacy in school. Like they'll teach you everything else but financial literacy. They don't teach you how to balance a credit card. They don't teach you how to balance a checkbook. They don't teach you how to manage a debit or checking account. Like all of this is something that's extremely necessary.
That's why it's like taught in the NFL now. You like come in and like, hey, let's not get the Bugatti with the first.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's like all of this is taught in like entrepreneurship, like when you go to like a business class or workshop or seminar or school or something like that, you learn a lot of this stuff, but they don't really teach you financial literacy. I didn't find in too many academic institutions where they would teach you how to manage money. It's just most of the people doing that were not making any money, even if they were teaching it. So it was like this textbook curriculum that was like outdated, and so I didn't really. Want to go to school, or like I didn't have any passion or interest in wanting to go to school. I just wanted to succeed in business. And I remember one time I asked my business teacher in school, I asked him, have you ever failed or started a business? And he said no. And I was like, well, man, what qualifies you to teach? Because this is retarded. Like you're teaching a generation, and you've never even had any real world experience as an entrepreneur. And so I remember that after that talk, I pretty much dropped out of high school. And but anyhow, back to the pizza store days, I used to read a lot, and when I would read a lot, it really expanded my mindset. I think that's one of the key things about if you're alone, you're stuck somewhere, you don't have a peer circle, or you don't have an environment or surrounding of other entrepreneurs that are going to really push you. The next best thing you can do is really read. You can pick up a lot of business books, and reading was like my escape. I would escape my shitty little life at the pizza store with. Yeah,
that's one of the dangerous things that I've realized. I love my group of friends and stuff like that, but when you're growing up with your initial group of friends, if you don't have a peer group that is entrepreneur mindset, nobody's thinking about that, no one's talking about that, and you don't really have a challenge or competitiveness to actually go out there and do it. And I think that's why a lot of people just never even get started, because it's just not in the reality.
They don't have like the peer pressure that
and then
we
people
have.
join like a community like the mastermind. By the way, we have this, Tom has a really cool mastermind. It's called the $1 Billion Mastermind. We're not like pitching it, you can't join in this or anything like that, but just what we do is we all get together and we come and talk, and it's a really cool thing. And when you have that whole peer group and so forth, that's when people just start to explode. As soon as people start getting competitive with each other, and
people are competitive, and it's like the environment that we're in is all entrepreneurs. Like the friends we communicate with are all entrepreneurs. Everybody's like trying to attain these goals of $10-100 million companies and things like that, and it really changes the dynamic a lot, because whereas before we're surrounded by people who are just telling us, hey man, I want to go pick my nose today. We're like, hey man, I want to pick my nose and pull out some gold, and I need an ounce of gold to come out of my nose. The conversation just totally changes. And so when I was reading, I would come across like a lot of different business models, and I came across Bill Gates in software, and he was the richest dude in the world at that time. And I was like, man, this guy's a genius. And I became a little bit of obsessive with good old William H. And that resulted in me starting my first business. I used to save my pizza tips, and I would start. I started my first business, which was a software company. It failed miserably, and I started. Long story short, 7 companies back to back, and all of those companies failed spectacularly, like the other ones. And I learned a lot throughout that process because I didn't have any formal business education. I was very young. I was inexperienced. I was a high school dropout. I didn't have a lot of things going for me, and most of my knowledge was from books. I didn't have a mentor at the time, and so I ended up failing a lot. But I learned really, really fast. I learned how to balance payroll, how to get in and out of leases for office spaces. I learned how to negotiate. People coming on to recruit people to help. Recruiting resources, raising capital. Like I learned a lot of stuff that I probably couldn't have learned anywhere else, unless I was just doing it physically, and I learned from trial by trial, basically. So I did that, and failed in my first 7 companies, but they were my own failures. I didn't owe anyone any money. I didn't owe the bank anyone any money. Like I would just buy and sell stuff, make money, pour it into the next venture. When it would fail, I would go back to.
Yes, that's the thing. When people are starting businesses, they always think you have to be able to get investors or something like that. People don't realize in most businesses you can start off just with your own money, and you just kind of start scaling up from then. And then you just kind of worry about the issues that come, like the office and space. People are like, oh, I don't know how to make software. I don't know how to make a website. I don't know. The thing a lot of people need to realize is that nobody fucking knows how to do anything when they start a business, and then they learn it all through trial and error. There's nothing that teaches you how to do it.
Yeah, there's no magic, thing that you can do that's going to teach you everything about business. Yeah. Unfortunately, you have to learn business is a game with many moving parts, and you have to learn each thing as you gain experience in doing it, basically. So I did that, and then I didn't have anything going for me on my 7th company, so I borrowed money from friends and family, and I told myself I was going to start my 8th company, and started the 8th company, borrowed about 50 grand from friends and family, everybody I knew, basically. I basically ended up taking another run at this software for used car dealerships, and it didn't turn out too well. I proceeded within 6 months to go bankrupt and spend all the money, not be able to make payroll, not be able to pay my rent, not be able to pretty much do everything. The software was only 80% complete, so I couldn't even raise some money by selling it, and it was really shitty. It was really buggy. But anyhow,
the first software is always the worst.
Yeah.
It's always just a mess. Everything always goes wrong.
Everything did go wrong that you can think of, pretty much. And so I went bankrupt, man, and I went through a really bad state of depression. I was really beating myself up about it because I owed everybody I knew money. So I was like, how the hell am I going to pay everybody back? And we call it entrepreneurial suicide, where you start writing up a resume and you're like, I'm going to go get a job, and I was literally at that state, and I used to hide out in my bed with the blanket over my head, trying to avoid the world, because if I faced it, I owed it money, and I didn't want to face it, and it was really bad 2.5 months state of depression. And then after the 2.5 months, I basically kicked the depression. I had a really good talk with my mom, and she was like, you failed so many damn times. What difference does it make if you fail again? And I was like, great, you're right. I fail again, no difference, pretty much. So
that's the coolest thing about that, and I think the thing that helped me realize, and I've also really tried to put on other people, is that the worst case scenario is just you fail. If I failed, like if my business blew up right now, just move back in with my parents. They have an internet connection. I just go that, or I just get a job at a pizza place. Get that and just do that until I can start up another business and get it going. I started my business from scratch and stuff like that. And I think that's what people don't realize. They think there's some ultimate failure or something like that, and you only have to get it right once. You only have to get it right once, and then you're good.
They think, most people think failure is final.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no coming back from that. You fail, it's the end of the world. And the truth is, it's not. Failure is just an event that occurs in your life, and there's many events that are going to occur in your life. You just turn the page and write the next chapter of what your life is going to be. And I was dodging people. I was hiding out. I was like, I would go into, people would come to my house, and the only door in my house that had a lock was a washroom. So I'd lock myself in the washroom when they would come over, and I'd cry my eyes out, like, how the fuck am I going to pay people back? And finally kicked it, and I started my 9th company. It was another run at the 8th company that I had gone bankrupt in. I knew I could finish the software. I knew that my only chance was to take inventory of what I had that I could sell for money, basically. And I was like, well, the software is 80% done. You know, like I just need to finish it. I don't have the money to finish it, but I got to find a way to finish it. And that's another thing with entrepreneurs. You know, you have a lot of handicaps in life. You may have a lack of resources. You may have a lack of capital. You may have a lack of connections. You know, and you just have to find a way to do it. And I think when entrepreneurs are the type of people, when they commit to something, they just commit to it, like, you know, in an obsessive type of way. They're like, they have to get it done. They have to make it work. And that mindset is really what allows you to attract things into your life through, you know, the universe then conspires to help you. And so I did that. I started my 9th company, and I had 2 friends I used to go to high school with that I convinced to work with me, and they were good at programming and designing and things like that I needed basically to finish the software. And they worked with me and in 32 days, you know, whereas before I had money and I had an office and I had staff and, you know, I was building the software and I failed and went bankrupt. Now I had no money. I had 2 friends who were like convinced that there was going to be money in the future. I had no office. I had like literally nothing, using, you know, a friend's garage or like my basement or something like that, like wherever we can find space to work. And in 32 days we finished the software, which was, you know, like a record. Which is a record for us.
That's straight.
You know, when you have everything, you can't, you know, so those people who think that you need everything to like finish something or take a product or service to market, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
you
people go and they start businesses and gotta get the office, gotta get the good office, gotta get the PR manager, gotta get this everything. You gotta go. I once worked at a place and just they're so fixated on playing business that they forgot the number one thing is just make money. Just make money.
Sell something. You know, most of the time they're too busy preparing to sell something as opposed to selling it.
What I always tell people is just focus on the thing that gets you paid when you're starting out, because people focus on so many things, learning so much. I'm like, if you getting a check from a client gets you paid, focus on solely getting those checks. Don't even worry about like the business. Just get the damn check and then figure it out later.
Figure it out later. So we ended up doing that. We finished the software off, and I went out and I tried to sell it, and I got 6 rejections that day. And next day I got a referral from someone I knew, and then I got 6 sales the very next day after that. And we sold the software for $5,000, and then we had a $2,500 monthly residual where we would charge them for maintenance and upkeep and training on how to use it and stuff like that. And that worked out really well. Like, it went from being 50 grand in debt to getting like 13, 14 clients, paying off all my debts. I was making 30, 40 grand a month. You know, my partners were getting paid. Like, it was the first time something worked, even though it was the 9th time, you know, it was like a cat with 9 lives or something. But first time something worked and people were getting paid and I was making money, and I was like, man, this is really cool. But at the same time I was bored. Like, I was like, man, I don't want to do this. You know, like I did it because I was in debt, and that was the closest option that I had to get out of debt. So I went up to my first client and I basically told him that I was getting competitors too in the market, and I was losing clients to these competitors. And software is a game where you have to reinvest into a better version, like over and over and over again, so you stay competitive.
You always have somebody making the same exact thing and improving it a week later. Just you release it. It's
like it's very competitive, and you get left behind if you don't keep building a version 2 and a version 3. And we weren't doing that because I was in debt and I was saving, you know, every penny and paying people off. And you know, classic business mistake. But anyhow, I started to lose a few clients to other people, and I was like, man, either I'm going to sabotage this business, I'm going to lose all the clients, and it's going to go belly up anyway, or I have an option to try to get out of it. And that's basically what I did. I went up to my first client and I told him, you know, I won't be able to service you no more. I'm not going to be living here. I'm moving out of the country. So why don't you buy the business? You know, and here's the 3-month plan on how to scale it. And all you have to do is make the calls, and you're already in the car industry. So, you know, it's for you to pick up the phone and make calls. It's easy. For me, from the outside in, it's a lot tougher because I didn't know anyone in the industry. And that worked out. Like, he ended up agreeing to buy the business, but the business was worth like $150,000 to my calculations at the time. And he lowballed me and offered me $60,000. And I took it. I wasn't in love with what I was doing, and it was like the opportunity cost. Do I stay here, you know, and keep doing it, or do I just get the hell out? And I sold it, got the hell out, and I made $60,000 when I sold it. And I packed up everything I was doing, and I moved to London, England. And I was I moved in with my brother, and he was doing all right for himself at the time. He was making some decent money, and I figured, like, you know, I could wear his clothes, eat his food, you know, stay at his house, be a hobo or a bum for a bit, and figure out what the hell I'm going to do with my life. And while I was in the UK, I ended up starting my 10th company, and I poured my last $50,000. I had $50,000 at the time. I poured the $50,000 into the development and ran out of money. borrowed 150,000 off my brother, made him a 50-50 business partner, essentially, and ran out of that money too. But I finished the software, which was a crazy thing, and then during that period, it was a person-to-person betting exchange, so it's relatively new. It wasn't regulated properly, and government didn't know how to properly tax it, and there's all kinds of things going on. It was a gray area, basically, where you could do things within the law, and I started that, and I used to like guerrilla market my friends and like, hey man, use my platform, and it was so ghetto. I didn't even know how to properly market. I just knew how to complete
you go and
things.
gamble in this
Yeah, so I was guerrilla marketing my friends, and I got like maybe 10,000 processed through the platform per month, and we used to take a 3% commission. So that was basically how we made money. So it was peanuts. It was like 300 pounds, which was nothing at the time, and basically got hit with regulations, and I had to come up with money. I had to come up with £1 million to continue operating, and I didn't know anyone with money, so I was like, man, what do I do? I already borrowed money off my brother. I have really no option at this point, so I did the only thing I knew how to do at the time, which was I just flipped open the phone book and I shortlisted companies that had any keyword related to money, like finance, capital, investing, things like that. And the
craziest thing I see in my industry all the time, and a lot of people watching this might be SEOs and stuff like that, people are like, how do I get clients? How do I get clients? I'm like, well, you pick up the phone, you call people, and people are like, oh, I don't want to do that, and that's too hard. How am I supposed to sell somebody? And it's just crazy. I'm like, well, I have this friend who was actually calling around asking for $1 million. If he can do that, I think he can call someone up and be like, hey, I got a deal for you.
Yeah. I mean, you have no excuse. Yeah, so I shortlisted 300 something companies, and 66 of them, I cold called them all, and I said, I have this great business, and it has huge potential, and we can make a lot of money. I need 5 minutes of your time so I can pitch you. And I made 66 appointments out of those 300 something calls, which was a pretty decent ratio of actually booking the appointments. And then I didn't have any money to get to these appointments, so I borrowed money from my 2 friends in my 9th company back in Canada. And they lent me the money, and I pretty much went to these meetings, and I would get rejected like 5-6 times a day. And we basically had 60 days to come up with the money before they would revoke our license and shut our company down and stuff. So I had to basically pound the pavement and take each rejection with a grain of salt and keep going. And it got to the point where I had gone through 51 meetings back to back, and all of them I got rejected in, and they wouldn't give me the funding and things like that. But the beauty of getting rejected 51 times is that your business plan is bulletproof. Like you have an answer for everything. You refined your pitch. Like there's a lot of benefits that come from it. It's just most people they look at the rejection. They're like, oh man, like that's it. He told me no. I'm done. My company's over. And me, I was like, he told me no. I'm like to me, no just means not yet. It doesn't mean no, never. It just means no, not yet, and it's the wrong opportunity for that person at that time. And a yes simply means right opportunity, right person, right time. And right urgency or understanding of the situation, pretty much. And my 52nd meeting, it was a guy who I sat down with, and basically most of my meetings were 5, 10, 15 minutes, and they would say no, and I would leave. And this one went past 15 minutes, and I was looking at the clock, and I was like, it went past 15 minutes. This is crazy. Like, this guy's going to give me the money, And in my head, I'd convinced myself that I was going to get the money. And the meeting turned into 3 hours, and he asked me every question in the book, and then he asked me, at the end, he's like, this all sounds really good, and, I'm really interested in what did you do before this? Like, what's your backstory? And I told him, I said, I failed in my first 7 companies. I'm a high school dropout, and I went bankrupt on my 8th. I sold my 9th. This is my 10th company. And he was like, he just turned into a monster. He was like, you're a fucking loser. He goes, you're a career loser. Like, how do you have the balls to come into my office and ask me for money when you're a fucking failure? And he told me, get the fuck out of my office, and pretty much verbally beat the shit out of me. And I didn't know what to do because I was in shock. I thought like he was going to give me the money. So
that's like the cruelest thing.
Yeah,
ever.
like when that was the last thing I imagined would happen.
So then you might be like, oh, okay, this is not the right time.
I was like, tell me you're not going to invest. You don't care. It's not your business. But don't sit there for 3 hours and listen to me and then tell me that I'm a fucking loser and I'm never going to make it and I'm a career failure. And anyhow, so I didn't say anything back in response. I was just in a little bit of a state of shock, and I got up and I left. And obviously left, and my other meetings that I had after that, there was like another 10 something meetings. They all somehow magically got canceled. And I didn't have enough time left. I had 30 hours before they were going to shut my company down. And I was bawling my eyes out and went home. I was like, what the fuck do I do? Like, 30 hours and everything's done. Like all my effort, all the money that I put in, I lost my brother's money. Like I was really beating myself up. But I convinced myself, when you're in a state of desperation, you don't think rationally, you don't think logically, you think very emotionally. And I was like, in my emotions, I was like, what do I do? What choice do I have? Like, I don't really have an option here. That guy was the biggest asshole that I've ever met in my life, but I don't have any options here. So I'm going to go back and ask him for the money again. And it's a very stupid thinking. Most people would never ever do that. But I went back, I asked him for them, and I convinced myself that I was going to ask him for the money. I didn't sleep that night. I showered and changed, and I went back to his office, and I was there at like 6:30 in the morning. And no one was there, obviously.
Yeah, I got attacked by a fly just now. Okay, yeah.
No one was there but the flies.
Yeah, no one was there.
Yeah, and his secretary showed up at like 7:30, and she was in disbelief. She was like, what the hell are you doing here, And I told her, I said, I came to ask him for the money. I'm going to ask him again, and blah, blah. And she's like, you're retarded, kid. Like, you're either stupid or stubborn or whatever, but you're retarded, and he's not going to give you the money. And I was like, well, let me ask him. It's up to me.
Let me ask really nicely. Something totally different.
Let me try a different tactic with him, and maybe beat him up and extort him for the, Anyhow, but she said, like, I admire your courage, and I'll let you. I'll tell him it's your next meeting and whatever. And so we ended up doing that, and he showed up at 8:30, and she said, sir, your next meeting, and she let me in, and I basically came in, and when I came in the office, I had every intention to ask him for the money. I was like, oh man, like I'm gonna ask this guy for the money, I really need it. I was just trying to formulate how I would do it. But when I walked into his office, everything from like the day before came back in my head. I was like, it was really beating me up a lot that I didn't I didn't have any self-respect for myself. I didn't have any dignity. Like I didn't defend myself. Like I could have said something, but the day before I just didn't say anything. And so when I walked into his office and I saw his eyes, like in a split second, I changed my decision. I said, you know what? I don't want this guy's money. The whole shit goes belly up. It goes belly up. Fuck it. I'll start again. It's not the end of the world. And But that was all in a split second. So when I walked into his office, he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? I thought I told you to get the fuck out of here yesterday. And I didn't really know what I was going to say, and obviously like I didn't want to repeat the same situation. So I just basically told him, fuck you. And then, one day you're going to work for me and you're an asshole. And
I bet that secretary got in so much trouble. Like, hey, here's a guy to come cuss at you this morning, first thing in the morning.
I bet you she got some good entertainment out of it. But anyhow, like I just, I told him off, and he was telling me off, and he's like, I'm going to call security. And I was like, save your breath, I'm leaving. And I just came to tell you you're an asshole and you should learn how to treat people better. And I just basically defended myself, and I felt much better after that for doing that, and I left his office, and I had 9 hours left before they were going to shut my company down. And I basically convinced myself that I'm not going to go down without a fight. If I have no more meetings left, I have nothing left, I have no option, but I still have 9 hours, and the 9 hours are not up yet. So when the 9 hours are up, then, I can give up then, but in the meantime, I'm not giving up at all. And I convinced myself to knock on every single door in that building until they kicked me out or I got the money. And I went to the neighboring office, the very next office, and I knocked on the door, and it was like 8:35 in the morning. So I knocked on the door, it was 8:35 in the morning, the CEO opened the door, he's like, can I help you? And I was like, yeah, I just want to let you know your neighbor here is a fucking asshole. And he started laughing, and he invited me in, and he's like, what can I do for you? And I said, look, I have this company, and it has huge potential, and I just need 5 minutes of your time. I just want to pitch you. And he said, sure. And he listened to my pitch, and that 5-minute pitch turned into another 3 hours. And that 3 hours was, whole time I was watching the clock again. And then, he said at the end, he's like, same thing. I'm really interested. Tell me a little bit about your backstory. And I told him the same thing. Failed 7 times, went bankrupt 8th time, got out of debt, sold my 9th company, and this is my 10th company. And he said some of the most comforting words to me that I've never forgot, even to this day. He said, most people fail 3 times and they give up for life. The third failure is like enough to put their dreams to bed, like to kill their dreams and to kill their ambition and motivation and inspiration, everything they had that they wanted to do with their life, it just gets killed off the third failure. And he goes, you failed so many times and you're still going, like you're still trying. And he goes, one day you're going to be really, really successful. And it was really comforting to get that after like this neighbor, telling me I was the biggest loser in the world and I should jump off a cliff and kill myself. Like, essentially. So long story short, I pitched him and he agreed, and I left his office with a 1.6 million pound check. And he ended up investing into my company, and I got to the bank, and the bank cashed it. But after a while, they thought it was fraud. They're like, "Where's your contract?" I was like, "I don't have a contract." They're like, "How did the guy give you money?" I was like, "Well,
that's real nice."
Yeah, it was crazy. A deal's never happened like that. I've never even done a deal like that where I blindly give someone money, even though I'm an investor and that's what I do. Yeah. But I've never even done that myself. So, it was, I guess, just the universe aligning, like, me being in desperate need of a miracle. And that's usually when they occur, when you go out on a limb and you really push yourself to try to see a result occur. And I got the check and I cashed it, and we gave the money to the bank, and we ran some advertising deals, and things took off. The company started to do really, really well. I made like $8-9 million my first year, and which was ridiculous. It was the first time receiving money.
Yeah, first time ever being like actually being way up.
Yeah, actually having it seemed like a lifetime.
We're gonna get that fly in this video. It's gonna die. We're gonna witness murder in this video. By the time we're done,
so you murder your fears and your flies.
I'm now smacking myself in the face with this 8 times. But yeah, so the company took off.
Yeah, so the company took off, and that was my 10th company, and it took off. And this is back in 2003, and it was growing incrementally every year since then. I came into money, and I knew that I was really good at coming up with ideas, launching things. I sucked at the day-to-day management and things like that. So I would hire other people to do that portion of the business, or I'd create a partnership where the partner would do that portion of the business, and I just kept launching more ventures. And long story short, from 2003 until now, we've launched over 40-something companies. A lot of them have failed miserably, but there's a good portion of them that tend to do well. There's some that are losing money. There's some that are breaking even. Some that are making a little bit of money, just not making a lot of money. And there's like 6 or 7 that do really, really well, and those kind of pay for everything. So I just became a serial entrepreneur and started many, many companies and learned a lot and failed a lot. And now I have 31 companies in my portfolio today that are all our own companies that either we've started or acquired or things like that. And became an investor also. I was like, man, why am I putting in so much work to be a startup guy and launch this company? Like, in the launch phase of an idea, or a product or service, like, you have to do everything. You're the janitor, you're the CEO, you're the pretty much every role. We're about to go World War III on this fly. Pretty much every role that like a person does in a business, you wear like all the hats, and it's a lot of work. It takes a lot out of you, and when you're doing it in multiple businesses, it's even more work.
Especially if the businesses don't pay off. You have to do that.
You have to work even harder. Yeah, and I was working myself into the ground. I was working really, really hard, and I was like, man, this doesn't make sense. There's got to be a better way to do this. And that's when I realized also that I can just invest into other entrepreneurs' companies and ideas and products and services, and just help them with the business side of things, and the stuff that I'm good at, help them launch, and just use my same skills, but in that isolated situation, and take an equity stake in their company, and then fund them with some financial capital, and help them grow. And when they grow, they win and I win, and it's a win-win situation. Essentially, the customer wins with a good product or a high-value service, and I started to do that, and I started to invest into companies, and I got lucky on my first investment. I lost money after on dozens of investments, and then after I got to a point where
I think one of the first big investments was MySpace, or is this the one coming up?
Yeah. One of the first investments was a company called Intermix, basically, that ended up acquiring them. And but anyhow, I learned that investing was you have to have a strict criteria. You got to know what to invest in. You can't. Back then, I didn't know shit. Yeah. So I was like, man, let me just invest into, that you have a great idea. Awesome. App. Yeah, that's a neat app. That's a great idea. That's a great this. And I would just, they were all theories. They were all prototypes. They were all things that weren't proven process, and a lot of times as an investor, when you invest into things that's not a proven process, you take a big risk. And I didn't know the difference between high risk and low risk and things like that. I was just learning on the spot. And the high risk stuff tended to kick my ass. It didn't pan out. It was like chasing unicorns or trying to catch a whale.
To create a new Facebook
trying to create a new Facebook, and it just didn't work out. So I created a criteria that allowed me to identify like what's my sweet spot, where can I invest into a company and add something to the table and help that entrepreneur, you know, achieve his objective. And it turned out we worked really well with seed stage companies, and after that criteria, we knew not to invest into an entrepreneur who wouldn't put any of his own money into his business, you know, like because you know, entrepreneur, if I invest $1 million in your company and you didn't even invest a penny, if you lose the $1 million, you don't care.
Deal,
you're like, man, it wasn't my money.
Somebody
you know, like
afraid. You know.
Yeah, that's it. But if you invest like 50 grand into your company that you're liable for, that you borrowed from the bank or friends or family or whatever, you're worried about your 50 grand. So you have skin in the game. You know, so at that point, like you're not going to sabotage your investment or not care if it doesn't do well. You'll really, really try hard. And that was another big difference. So we stopped investing into entrepreneurs who wouldn't invest into their own ideas, and we built a criteria after that. And that criteria allowed me to go on and make dozens and dozens of investments. Made over 100 investments now. My goal is to do over 10,000 throughout my career. It's like the master 10,000 number or whatever. And I really enjoy the investment part. So now I spend, just to fast forward to what I'm doing now, I spend about 50-60% of my time reviewing proposals, making investments, meeting entrepreneurs, raising capital, things like that. And I spend about 20% of my time in new ventures and startups that like I have a passion for, that I've created. And I spend about 10-20% of my time basically a family guy. You know, I'm a husband, I have a daughter, I'm a son. I just basically normal human being, you know, doing normal human shit. And the other part of the time, I'm a business mentor. Like I mentor, I have an events company that hosts events around the world. We do 20-25 events around the world, and I mentor entrepreneurs and other people who are going through the same shit that I went through. And kind of like, you know, our relationship, you're a student of mine and I'm a mentor of yours, and I know a lot of the challenges that you're going through, and we try to help you address those. And so we do that through a mastermind, which a couple of different mastermind models that I've created. And I think those are the best. It's like we were talking earlier that you don't have that.
Mastermind is really
you don't have
the first one. Like if you look at some of the stuff from the first mastermind we had to like the third one, just craziness.
Yeah, it's nuts. Everyone's mind is aligned on the same goal. You know, we're all very competitive. You know, we all understand the tools that we have at our disposal to, you know, realize our income goals. You know, we all share growth hacking strategies on sales and marketing and techniques, and you know, all this stuff that allows us to all individually succeed at a higher at a higher percentage, and collectively succeed at a higher percentage. You know, and I had a mentor in 2012. I got a mentor who's worth, you know, way more than I am, and he basically had a profound shift on my life from just being a financially motivated entrepreneur to being a socially conscious, contribution-centered, you know, philanthropic type of entrepreneur, and that had a big change in my life, and that's why I started to do the masterminds. I started to give back. I started to do events where I would help, you know, other people break through their limiting beliefs, their fears, and the things that were holding them back, addressing their mindset or building the right mindset and belief system for them to go out and achieve their dreams and goals. And I started to do that a lot, and I got obsessed with it at one point. And last year, I think I was on like 60 airplanes, traveling around the world, doing all this. And
that drives me nuts. I hate traveling so much.
Yeah,
the only time I travel now is for the mastermind. Like last year, I was like speaking at all these events all the time. I'm like, in front of people. Now I'm just like, I want to sit at home. And I'll help you from my YouTube videos. And
you know, like traveling a lot, it really throws your routines off. You know, because when you're situated in one place, you know, you have your habits, you know, and more you create good habits, your habits create a good you know, essentially. And it throws me off my habits too. And when I'm situated in one place, I eat good, I work out good, I have a good routine, I follow, you know, a strict process and system. And when I'm traveling, I have to, I think you got it.
I think I got it.
Oh, yes, we killed it.
Yes.
Die.
You see that athletic talent. I was almost drafted by the Packers last week.
You see, you know, we were talking about never give up.
Yeah,
you know?
See, there you go.
And he never gave up.
There you go.
And we killed that fly.
But let me just go into, this is the most unprofessional video ever made. I want to go into a few things real quick, just kind of wrap it up with just some questions and stuff like that. I think you already addressed, like, what are some ways, if you were starting a business right now, if you could go back and tell yourself when you're starting a business, besides, hey, just stick with it and don't talk to that dick in that one office over there, what would you tell yourself to really mitigate risk? Like, what were like the biggest mistakes starting out?
A lot of, you know, it's a good question. A lot of times it's two things. One is you have to have the right mindset going into business, because a lot of people who become entrepreneurs, they're good at talent or skill, but they don't realize business is a game where you need to be good at many things, and in order to run a successful business, you need to do all of these things successfully. And they don't know how to do those things. They just, know how to cook really good, or bake something or whatever it is, and they're like, oh, I can use that skill.
You see some of those gurus too, or the famous chefs and stuff. No business sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no business sense.
The money
they just
falls out of a magic pot.
They love baking, and they're like, I love baking. I'm going to start my own bakery, and I'm going to make millions of dollars. And
because it's really good.
They don't realize that you have to sell whatever you bake. So you need sales. You got to market what you're baking, so you need marketing. And things like that. And so the number one thing is make sure your mindset is prepared. And the second thing is the preparedness. Meet every opportunity that you're trying to meet fully prepared. A lot of times we meet opportunities for businesses and ideas unprepared, and when we meet it unprepared, it's a really big challenge. It's overwhelmingly a challenge that we can't get out of or succeed over. And it's just a lack of preparation. If I go into a fight and I'm like, I'm gonna kick this guy's ass, and I don't train at all, and I don't prepare, I don't do anything other than run my mouth, and then I go in the fight and I get my ass kicked, it's my fault. It's essentially my fault. I'm meeting that opportunity unprepared. If I train like I'm Bruce Lee and I go into that fight, and even if the other guy, depends on if the other guy trained hard or not, but I have a really good chance of actually winning the fight or defending myself, because I've trained for it, I've conditioned myself, I've prepared for it, and a lot of times as entrepreneurs we don't prepare enough. And I think preparation is something that you have to do, not just you prepare your mind, you prepare your body for the amount of work that you're going to have to do, the amount of hours that you're going to work. You prepare your relationships so they understand what it is you're doing, so that all of these things don't become a hurdle.
I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think the big mistake I always see is exactly that. They don't focus solely on the business. I've seen so many people, it's like Peter said actually on Facebook a while back, they don't have their shit handled 24/7. So they'll start a business, they'll make some money, and then they'll be like, oh, vacation time and everything's gonna be great, the business won't explode, and then a year later they're back working somewhere else.
Yeah, so be prepared in your mind, be prepared in your body, be prepared in your skills and talents, and make sure that you're committed. The biggest thing that helped me overcome the failures was that I'm committed to this dream of wanting to be financially successful. And if I'm not committed to it, then I may experience one or failure, two failure, whatever. In my case, 10 failures. But eventually, if I'm committed to the dream, I'll eventually find something that works, and I'll succeed.
That's what I think. If you sit around 10 hours a day doing something 365 days a year, eventually you're going to get it right.
That's it.
No matter who you are or whatever. People think you need some special skills. No, you just need to sit there and do it till you get it right.
Yeah, if you look at athletes, they practice. Kobe Bryant was bad at 3-pointers or whatever, and he went and he shot 1,400 or 1,300 3-pointers a day, every single day, until he got it up. So it's the same thing. You just practice your craft. You practice performance. You practice delivery. You practice fulfillment, and you do that over and over and over until it's second nature, and you can do it really well. And I guess that. Another add-on value to that is that sales is what runs a business. Sales is what makes you money. So if you're afraid of sales and you want to be an entrepreneur, you might want to go get another job, because it's not going to work out. You have to have the confidence and the mindset to be able to sell whatever your product or service is, shamelessly. You have to sell it regardless if people buy it or not. You have to sell it if you get rejected or objected. You just have to sell. And if you're afraid of sales in any way, shape, or form, either hire the best salesperson out there or learn sales.
Yeah, that's the best. That's some amazing advice. And just the best skill set I think you can have if you're going to be an entrepreneur, or if you're going to learn one thing. I can't code, I can't do many things right. I'm not too clever, but I can sell. I can sell stuff. I can write a script. I can sell stuff. I've read books and stuff like that. And I think what a lot of people need to realize, you could have the best product, the best idea ever. It doesn't matter until it's sold.
That's it.
Most things I think that are extremely successful are not the best idea or the best product. It's just the one's the best sold.
Yeah.
And that's just how everything else. And so I think there's probably 1,000 Facebooks, but it was just the one that was marketed the best. And that's
it. He sold the vision that he had for it. And people bought into it.
What would you say is on another note, not when you're starting out, but when you get there, when you actually have a successful business, say you just exit or something like that, what's the biggest mistakes you see there? Because I've talked to my one friend who he exited a company for like 70 million, and his friend went bought like an island and everything. A year later, he's working somewhere else. He blew all of it. So.
I was very fortunate early on that when I made my millions, I wrote myself $1 million check, and I proceeded within 8 months to go bankrupt again. Not bankrupt, but like I'd spent all the money.
Yeah.
Whereas before, all my life, was trying to make $1 million, and I made it, and I didn't know what the hell to do with it. You know, and a lot of times that happens as entrepreneurs when we finally get successful and we have money, and we haven't been trained, taught, educated on what to do with that money. We end up doing the most stupidest things, and I did that too, and I'm sure everybody does it. Every entrepreneur who's successful does it, and I bought a
chrome Lamborghini.
Yeah, like I bought a bunch of liabilities, and I knew that I'll never be financially free. I'll never be wealthy. I bought motorcycles that my friends would drive and crash, like rented cars and apartments I'd never stay in, lent people money they'd never pay me back. I'd invested into things that went belly up. Like I did a lot of stupid things with the money, but that taught me that that was like a financial degree, and I might call it my $1 million financial degree, because it taught me that if I ever want to be wealthy, it doesn't matter how much money I make. It matters how much money I keep and how much money I use to reinvest to make more money. And if I can get that piece right, then even if it's not my business, someone else's business, like I'll always be able to manage money. And 95% of the world sucks at managing money, and 5% of the world manages 100% of the rest of the world's money. So. I really got it into my head that I had to be a successful, investor. And I think other entrepreneurs, when they sell their company, and they don't have it in their mindset that you have to invest your profits and things like that.
No, you just go spend it all.
You just spend it all. If it's not allocated, if it's not pre-allocated into something that it's going to go into, when it comes into our hand, we get itchy, and we're like, just do this here and do this here, and before like the itch stops, there's nothing to invest anymore. It's already spent and it's already being used up, and we partied all over the world and traveled all over the world, and there's not much left for us to do but work really hard to make more money, and I never wanted to do that. I made those mistakes in the beginning. So my best advice to entrepreneurs is that the moment you get a paycheck, budget a percentage that you can do whatever the hell you want with, like take 10%. Like even now, since that time I lost the money, I made myself a promise that I was going to invest most of my money, and I invest 90% of everything that I make for the last 13 years. I've been investing 90% of everything I make for the last 13 years. I live off the 10%. And in the beginning, first few years, it was hard because all these people were doing all these things, and I was like, I had the money, but I was like, I couldn't do them. And so I had to discipline myself really hard. But that discipline has paid off. The 10% now has grown so much that I can pretty much do anything I want with that money. And I'll never diminish my wealth. I'll never diminish the inheritance that my children are going to get, or what my grandkids are going to get. Like, I'll never be damaging my legacy by mismanaging all that and losing it all, because I invest 90% of it, and the 90% continues to compound and continues to grow, and that 10% continues to grow too, and that allows me to
run that.
I do whatever I want with the 10%, and to be honest, like there's not much I even want to do with it. Like even then, I'm like, man, I should really just invest it here or there. But
that's one of the biggest things I learned from our first mastermind. I was like, I'm making all this money, but what the hell do you do with the money? Like, how do you stay rich forever? And so forth like that. And
like in your case, like I remember we had that talk, and you had the Ferrari and you had the Lamborghini, and I was like, dude, do you really need two of them? Like I mean, it's a supercar. You need one to get your kicks out, to enjoy whatever, and the second one, it could have been an investment into an asset that would produce cash flow, that would make you money, that would just pay for the other one essentially. And
you saw I pulled up in the 2000 Hyundai today. So I don't even drive it anymore, but that's the final question, and I think the biggest insight I really want everyone to take away from this video. And a lot of people who watch this channel and watch this stuff, they're just starting a business, not very, everybody's getting into it, everybody's at different levels. But I think one of the biggest things that really kicked me off is I had a first mentor, and he's still a good friend of mine. I had another mentor, and then I got you, and you started mentoring me as well. And I just really wanted to kind of help people find a way to get a good mentor, because I feel like you can only you cannot, a lot of people, like, I'm sure you get messages on Facebook all the time, like, mentor, but they've never started a business before.
Yeah.
So you can't really communicate with them too much. It's just like, I can't communicate with a person from zero, but a person from zero can communicate with a person who's making 10K a month, and then a 10K per month person can communicate with 100K, and then a 100K per month can communicate with scales from there. So what would you suggest if someone's out there, how to go out there and find a good mentor and what to look for? Especially because there's a lot of stuff being thrown all over the internet and stuff like that. And I'm not really talking product-wise. I'm just talking individual mentor and community. What would you suggest for people?
I think mentors. Like I get asked a lot, what book should I read? What workshop should I go to? What's the secret to success? How do I make $1 million in a blink of an eye? And there's no real secret. There's no real shortcut other than, in my experience, getting a mentor. A mentor shortcuts the cycle of failure and success really, really good. And I think the biggest thing they do for you is they help you unlock your potential. They realize your potential. They push you towards realizing it. And they know, like, as entrepreneurs, who do we answer to? We don't answer to anyone, right? Like, I mean, we make our own money, we write our own hours, our rules, our paychecks, and we don't really answer to anyone other than our customers and like a bad market or whatever. So mentors, they keep you accountable.
That's the thing, like with the mastermind and stuff like that. Like the reason why I make my goals make 500K a month and $1 million a month and then so on and so forth is mainly not really to like even buy more stuff, because the one thing I learned, the best thing about you can buy with money is just being stress-free. The second it starts stressing you out, that's when everything
There's
sucks.
a lot of things in the world that money can solve. And then there's certain things that money can't solve, but 80% of the money can solve. So if you have enough money, you can solve those things.
And you can just be stressed as well. But the reason why I focus now is like to compete with people in the group. Like when I see Don posting, I'm like, oh, that motherfucker, he's freaking killing it over here. Kelly's making all this, and then everybody else, and that's when I'm like, I gotta go and do better. And so, that's
when your peer circle, it's like if I go to the gym, right? And my peer circle is all lifting minimum or like curling 100 pounds, and I'm curling a 10. I'm gonna be like, man, like I'll pick up a 15 pound and 20 pound, and I'll start pushing myself to do that. And then you realize more and more your potential. And if you're surrounded by people doing the same thing, it collectively enhances everybody's ability basically to realize things much faster. It's that perfect competitive environment to be in. So mentor wise, like, it's the best thing you can ever do for yourself as an entrepreneur is go get a mentor. Because in the business world, like I was talking about earlier, financial literacy, they don't teach you financial literacy. So when you go and you get a mentor who knows financial literacy, it's like they shortcut your learning so fast. The other thing is that you really, really have to know what your goals are. Like a lot of times I've gotten, not myself, I've seen other people message me and ask for advice based on them getting a mentor, and they're like, oh, should I get this guy? Should I get that guy? Like, I'm like, well, what are you trying to do? Like, what do you ultimately want to do with your life? Like, you don't need a nutritionist if you want to open up burger joints. It has to be relevant to the mentor. Has to be relevant.
Exactly what you've done and how you want to do it. Like you were in tech. I'm mostly in tech. A lot of people we interact with are in tech. So I'm like, oh, this is what he did and this is how he's doing it. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah. You find a mentor for where you're trying to go. The mentor has to be on the level that you're trying to get to or far above it, so that you grow in that process. And then, like, I'm just going on a tangent, just to digress a little bit. There's this one thing that worked really well for me, not just in the mentor sense, but I think for everything. Like, it helped me find the right mentor. It helped me attract all the things that people, places, resources, capital, all the things that I needed for me to be successful. And that was just writing my goals down. I know it's so stupidly simple to do it, but I write my goals down 5 times a day. I have a reminder on my phone that goes off every 4 hours. It says, write your goals down. I timestamp them and I write them down.
Every day.
Every day I write it down 5 times. In the beginning, like when I was failing, I used to, like, what can you do when you're in failure and you're surrounded by, like, lack of this, lack of that. It's a really shitty outlook on life and a really, bleak outlook in that sense. Like everything you look at, you're just like, oh man, you're not going to succeed. I'm broke. Oh, I don't have this. I don't have that. Oh, my friends are broke. You just basically have a really weak outlook on life, and there's nothing you can do that can give me an instant back to my state. Back to my state of mind. I'm going to be a really good, successful entrepreneur. I'm going to be a successful businessman. Like there's nothing you can do to get back into that state other than to remind yourself of your goals. And in the initial stage, I remember I was failing, and I was like, man, how do I get my mind back on track? And so I wrote down my goals over 1,000 times a day for 30 days. I consistently did it for 30 days, and this is like a mindset booster. When you're going through failure and you're going through tough times, and you do something consistent for 30 days, and it's writing your goals down. It's like wiring my mind and programming my mind to think in a certain way. I'm just brainwashing myself. Like when a kid at school gets in trouble and he's in detention and they tell him, write on the board, I will not do this again, you know, and the kid writes it out like Bart Simpson writing shit out on the board. It actually wires the mind, you know, into a certain pattern of thought, a certain mindset or thought process. And
that's what I do that a lot. I mean, I noticed, like, the more specific you write down your goals, the better you go to them. Like, if you talk to a lot of successful people, you know exactly how much they need to make, how many clients, down to like the cent. And what I do every single month is I have the software money goals. Basically, this needs to make this needs to make that. We need this many customers, and so I'm fixated on that. And I'm not even like trying to make money. I'm just fixated on doing that. And I'm like upset if I don't reach that, just because I'm always writing that down and I have it down to the cent.
There's whole science, There's a science to success, you know, and there's a science to your mindset. And you have to be able to tap into these things, you know, in the right way. And when you do that, you know, there's no like, it's tough to explain, but the universe then conspires in your favor and starts sending people, places, resources, opportunities, the things that you need to develop and learn and grow and become the person that you write down in those goals that you are, you know, or you're going to be. And I did that. So like 30 days, write them out consecutively for a high amount of time. Another cool tactic is to, every time I'm low, I have a bad day, I don't make sales, you know, my company erupted, you know, there's some shit going on, I'll write out my goals. You know, what can I do? I can't complain, I can't get frustrated, I can't worry, but I can remind the universe that, look, this is how freaking serious I am of what I'm trying to do with my life. And I write out the goals on my iPhone. Sometimes I'll be in a plane going somewhere and I'll just write it out for an hour, you know, and I make sure to write it 5 times every single day. Sometimes I miss it throughout the day. Before I go to bed, I write out all my goals 5 times at least. So I have that consistency. Then I use it as a second tier when I'm having a bad day or I'm experiencing difficulty or adversity or challenges. I write them out again to remind the universe to, you know, that this is who I'm going to be. And then I write out every day I'm going to be a billionaire, you know, and I write that to remind myself. And then anytime I'm going through massive failure, where it's like a big failure and it's for a consistent period of time or something, and it's a tough learning experience, I'll write them out like for 1,000 a day. You know, I'll go back to that same strategy that I used back then when I was experiencing failure and just write it out 1,000 times a day for 30 days. Just be consistent in it. It's your mind, whatever you focus on expands. So if I focus on, you know, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go here, I end up there. You know, if I focus on, look, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there, I'm going to get there, you end up there. You know, that's ideally what it is. Your mind gets pulled and pushed into the direction that your mind focuses on going.
Yep, that's the thing with like the community and stuff like that. Everybody ends up just naturally getting pulled to each other.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I mean, awesome stuff. I think we're running out of stuff, but appreciate the time.
My pleasure, man.
Is there going to be another $1 million mastermind or big event or anything like that?
The $1 billion mastermind, we do it 4 times a year.
Yeah,
so.
no, I mean the
smaller model ones,
the big ones, where we have like 50 or
the Mastermind X ones.
Yeah, Mastermind X.
Yeah. We actually are doing another Mastermind X. It's supposed to be in November or December. Okay. We're finalizing the details for it soon.
If you're watching this video and you're interested in attending, there'll be a link somewhere in the regions of this video and below if you're interested in attending that. I'll be there. I think Tom will be there. He'll be at his.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he'll be.
I'll try to show up.
People. So it's cool if you're interested in this kind of stuff. It's definitely something you want to check out. 100%. But
can I hit them with some realness? I'm gonna come into the camera a little bit. I'm gonna sit down right here so I can get in your face and I tell you some real talk. And this real talk is real simple. Take action. You know, you don't get anywhere in your life unless you take action. So I'm going to challenge you to do something right now. After this video finishes, I told you about goal setting, how it's profoundly changed my life, how it's impacted my life, how it's aligned my mindset and my belief system to where I'm trying to go. I want you guys to have those same advantages and benefits. So I'm going to challenge you right now. Are you ready for this challenge? I'm going to challenge you to write down your goals 100 times. And a lot of people are going to be like, Calm, how do I write down my goals? How do I start? What do I do? How do I begin? And I'm going to challenge you to write them down. And just write them down like this. Say, I will, and then put the objective. Say, I will, have great relationships. I will make $1 million. I will become a billionaire. I will have 50 successful companies. Whatever your goals are in life, identify the goal, write down I will, and then write it down. Write down whatever the goal is. And I guarantee you, if you do not feel more powerful, more centered, more in control of your life and your purpose, if you don't feel more purposely driven, I'll give you a smile and a handshake or something. No, I'm just joking.
I'll friend you on Facebook.
Yeah, I'll friend you on Facebook, and I'll hook you up with a tweet, and I'll give you a shout out on my Periscope. I'm just kidding, but I guarantee you that it works if you write down your goals. So after this video, write down your goals 100 times. That's it. Real simple. I'm going to challenge you to do it, and if you accept the challenge and you do it, I'd love feedback on it. If you guys can hit up Alex or hit up the comments, comments in the YouTube video, and let us know that this really helped you, or what you feel after writing those goals down 100 times. That's like the major takeaway for this video for you, for your mindset, and then use that for the rest of your life. Anytime you're experiencing challenge, go back, write down your goals, tell the universe, look, I don't give a shit what's happening to me right now. This is where I'm going. This is where I'm going to end up.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Yes, we destroy half the audio equipment and everything. Hey guys, what's going on? This is Becker. Thanks so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed this kind of stuff, be sure to leave some feedback and comments and stuff you'd like to see in the future below. Now, in front of you right now, there's a link to subscribe. You should definitely do that because we're putting up videos all the time, and 2 other videos you can check out that are about business and then just kind of shits and giggles kind of stuff. There's also a link to Mastermind X, which we briefly covered in the video. I don't think the link will be active right now, but as soon as I get a link, I'll put it right there and you can check it out and come join us if you want. So, with that all being said, I'll see you in the next video around the channel.